They are coming, whether you want it or not. The PlayStation 6 and the next Xbox. I talked about it in the Sunday video, of course, the big news roundup that I do every Sunday on the main channel. And I get the comments, like, we need more games, not consoles. PS6 can wait. I don't really want the next-gen console to come out in 2027. It's too early. I feel like this generation has not even gained any steam. And I get it. I feel like that too. For me, booting up Ghost of Yotei was really that, wow. Finally a game that is really built for this new hardware that I bought 5 years ago. And that has all the bells and whistles, loads insanely fast, has all the DualSense features and stuff like that. We just don't really have all of these games. Because if you think about it, Spider-Man 2 was the first big PlayStation 5 exclusive. Death Stranding 2 after that. Of course, we had at the start some like a Returnal and stuff, but it's just not enough. While during the PS4 generation, we had way more. We immediately kind of got all these exclusive games. But there are reasons why 2027 really seems to be it. For both Xbox and for PlayStation. For Xbox, it's very, very obvious. Their sales have hit rock bottom. We even got like stories about stores that are like, we're not going to sell the Xbox anymore. People don't care. Every financial quarter, it's like, okay, software sales are doing pretty well. Game Pass is doing decent. Hardware sales are down 30% over last year. But last year, they were also down 30%. The year before, they were also down 30%. At one point, you're like, how many of these consoles are you actually selling? It's not enough, or not a lot. And they're raising the prices. So they were already at rock bottom, and Xbox is still raising the prices because of the tariffs, and they don't want to take a loss on these systems. But yeah, that means that people are not buying them. So yeah, it's really in Xbox's best interest to start a new generation because they have some new plans, obviously. And we have some pretty substantial rumors. PlayStation next console will reportedly be cheaper, but less powerful than the next Xbox. So that seems to be a power differentiator. The next Xbox, let's assume it will be called PS6, will be less powerful. However, that lacking power compared to the predecessor will mean that PlayStation can charge less. It really seems that with the next generation, PlayStation and Xbox are going for a different type of audience, which is going to be very interesting. I want to go to Moore's Law's dad, who is actually talking about this, and just hear what he has to say. I will leave a link to the video in the video description, but let's look at this particular part.
On average, I do expect Xbox Magnus to basically be a more premium version of the same performance you would get from a PS6. Like, for example, if a given PS6 game was running 4K 120 with ray tracing on, and of course it would also have FSR4, something to get there, I would suspect that Magnus would, instead of doing 4K 120, do like 4K 144. Like, it could do 20% higher frame rates, which doesn't matter on a big screen TV, really, but does matter if you're gaming on a monitor on your desk, which Magnus will be more meant for than the PlayStation.
So, basically, Xbox seems to be going more for a PC audience, while Sony is obviously focused on people who like to play on the big screen that doesn't even have support for 144 frames per second. And it really seems that Xbox want to create an alternative for people who like the freedom of a PC. Seems that the next Xbox will be will use Windows, likely give you the I've been talking about the Xbox ROG LIX. You boot that up, you see your Steam games, your Epic Game Store games or whatever. They're all installed, you can play them, you can buy them, but you're in this Xbox ecosystem where you also get reminded of Game Pass, and they can still target you directly as a game with all their Game Pass deals while you are free to buy games elsewhere. That seems to be a big thing for the next Xbox, that also your Steam library, for example, will work. So that is a thing that they got going. And yeah, it's going to be more powerful, so people on PC, of course, want to get the best frames and do have a monitor that can go up to 144 FPS. While Sony, and we of course also had this talk recently, Mark Cerny, someone from AMD, kind of talking about the future. In short, they're going to use AI a lot so that the actual hardware in the system will not really be used for to get to a higher resolution or higher frames. That hardware can just be focused on different things. So basically, AI will be used for upscaling, reaching the higher frames, better resolution, so they don't need the best tech in the system, which also means that the system can be a bit cheaper. And that really seems to be what PlayStation is mostly going for. I talked about this before, but what we always see, let's go to this first. What we always see with a new hardware, like this was before the PS5 came out, always Mark Cerny goes to developers and is like, okay, what do you want from the next generation of hardware? For example, one of the top requests was an SSD with the read speed of at least 1 gigabyte per second. And he cites like Epic Games founder Tim Sweeney for that, as saying that the slow hard drive technology in previous consoles was holding developers back. Sony decided to go for a much faster hard drive to give the developers some headroom. The SSD in the final console is capable of a raw data reading speed of 5.5 gigs per second. So basically, that was one of the top requests. And one of the top requests right now, again, the HDD is holding developers back. But the issue right now, if we go over here, is that this is as of June 2025. If you look at the monthly active users here, you see that of the 124 million, around the 70, maybe 80 million are on PS5. But that means that there are like, I don't know, 40 million still on PS4 per month right now. So that's why we see Call of Duty still on PS4. Of course, Fortnite still getting the PS4 updates. And yeah, that is holding the overall developers, holding everyone back. And there are, of course, a lot of games that don't work on PS4, but because the games still get updates on PS4, a lot of people are like, I'm sticking with my PS4. The PS5 is still way too expensive for me to buy, so I don't see a reason to jump. But if you look here, Sony sees that people that are actually on PS5 are spending almost $200 more in the time that they own the console. So it's in Sony's best interest as well to get people to the PS5, to get people to the next generation of hardware. Then you also have, again, Sony going to developers saying, okay, for the PS6, what do you guys want? Well, Capcom is like, the PS5 price is an unexpectedly large barrier for Monster Hunter Wilds sales. Because they are saying, yo, people that would normally buy a PS5 or a PlayStation 5 years in the generation because it's cheaper, we're not seeing those people because the console is even more expensive than at launch. So a lot of the people that would normally be able to buy our game, Monster Hunter Wilds, but all the other companies that are releasing exclusive games on the PS5 have that as well. There's a big barrier for potential buyers to jump to the next generation. So those developers that are only making games on PS5 and Xbox Series cannot reach those people. And that seems to be one of the biggest things that the PS6 wants to solve. For one, what they can do by utilizing the AI is not spend a lot, like make a cheaper console, because the AI technology will be used to still reach the targets like a 4K 120 FPS with ray tracing that we expect from a new console. So that is basically, Sony can, while we are not ready for a new console in 2027, if Sony can make a cheaper console that thanks to AI can do things that are better than the PS5, and they can sell it for cheaper as well, so people on the PS4 side are more inclined to jump over, it's a win for everyone. Also, there are two other things. Like, if Xbox is going to launch in 2027, they have all the reasons to. The rumors are saying it, insiders are saying it. Sony cannot, like, wait if their console is already at launch not as powerful as the next Xbox. So them waiting till 2028, that's not a good sign either. Then we also have to look at the PlayStation 5 sales right now. They are at 80.3 million. That's a lot, and that's wild if you think about it, because, again, the console is still as expensive or more expensive than at launch. So it's behind the PS4, but the PS4 was like way cheaper. The PS4 Pro was way cheaper. So they're making way more money, and they're still selling quite a lot. But if we look at the final total of the PS4, 117.2 at the end of the life cycle. And if the PS5 now has 2 more holiday seasons, they can only sell like potentially. Again, the PS5 is selling almost as fast as the PS4. They can potentially like hit 37 million in 2 years. So if they go to 2028, then in 3 years. That's not a lot of units you can sell in 3 years. So that makes, I think, 2027 another likely candidate. And we, of course, have the big elephant in the room, GTA 6. Like, that is going to be the first real system seller of this generation. Like, there are going to be so many people that are jumping over to the PS5 for GTA 6. So, yeah, I think then they can easily reach that 170 million, which is the peak of the PS4. I would be shocked if the PS5 sells more than the PS4. So, I only see reasons why Sony is inclined to go for 2027 as well, even though if we are not ready. But if that, like, it doesn't mean that your PS5 games won't work on PS4. Obviously, they're going to work. The PS4 games will probably work as well, obviously. And the PS5 will likely still be supported for a really long time, maybe even longer than the PS4. But if that means that they can put out a console that is cheaper to manufacture for them, that can have a lower barrier of entry for people that cannot afford a PS5 right now, like, they can now make this console with the tariffs in mind, with the new AI technology. I think if all of the rumors are correct, I'm not ready for a PlayStation 6 either. It's crazy that in 2 years from now we would be having that console. But on the other hand, yeah, I do think there's an issue with this generation of not going down in price at all. But we will see. There will be a lot of people, though, that buy a game, the console for GTA 6, and then a year later the PS6 will be out. But hey, that's a worry for another time, and maybe not for us. But yeah, subscribe, of course. Thanks. Check out other React content, and I will speak to you soon. Goodbye. And of course, in the